Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? Well, I'm just hanging out here in front of my dilapidated shack. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? I guess I should turn off the volume on my phone so I can not hear myself and see your comments at the same time. Hi, Dan. Hi, Jason. Hi, Scott. Hi, Loretta. Hope everybody's having a great Saturday. Today we got to enjoy a Corona birthday party, so that was really fun. Getting to see some people that we haven't seen in a while, but yet staying safe. And I was told that I couldn't be late for my Shack Talk, so I put up a Shack Talk instead of a shed today. So I hope you all enjoy it. Hi, Marla. Hi, Cindy. It's good to see everyone. In the feed today, as I'm talking, if you could tell me what was the funnest thing that you guys have done in the last week, I'd love to hear about it after I'm done, because I like to go through and read the comments afterwards to respond if I need to. Hi, Shelley. Yeah, so this week was a really long week for me. Lots of stuff happening at work, and so I'm feeling tired, but yet refreshed at the same time. I'm hopeful that the sun will come out soon, and I'll get to enjoy my patio once again. I'm looking forward to that. And hi, Dick. Hi, Stefan. Hi, Lynette. Hi, Mike. Hi, Joe. I'm just going to give it a couple of more minutes, and I'm going to ramble on for a couple of more minutes. I know everybody loves that while I try to figure out what to say. But one thing I will say while you guys are on here is don't forget to share the video. These videos are not just for you. Even if it's new or if it's review, we want you to share it. We never know what's going to glorify God or evangelize people through Facebook. So it's important to click that share button on your phone, and then it'll come up and you can click right post and just hit share again. It's that simple, 3 steps. It allows more people to be able to engage in not only what I'm saying, but with all the pastors that are on the live sites, allowing our message to get out to the greater Portland area and beyond. So this morning I was doing the prayer team meeting, and last week I talked about cynicism, and the solution to that is wandering or curiosity. And somebody said something, and it reminded me of Titus 1:15 that says, "To the pure, all things are pure, but to those who are corrupt and do not believe, nothing is pure. In fact, both their minds and their consciences are corrupted." And so during that prayer team meeting, it just dawned on me that it matters what we focus on. It matters what you're looking at. It matters what you think. And it matters. It just matters how we see the world. And it is these thoughts and ideas that influence our behaviors, which in turn affects how we navigate the world. And so I just kind of wanted to share that with you. I hope that you guys did your homework and you started wondering and being curious, not only about the word, but or the world, but also the word and what God is doing through this time of quarantine, and that we are engaging with all our senses, the world around us, and seeing God work in his miraculous ways. And I want to thank everybody who helped me get cleaning products this week. On Tuesday, when I was on here, I was complaining maybe a little bit about not being able to find cleaning products, and I got a myriad of texts from everybody, and I was able to get enough cleaning supplies for the center. So I was really excited about that. And I thank everybody who texted me and called me. That was great. So, so it looks like it's right about time, and I'm just gonna start with my lesson. If you remember last week, we talked about cynicism and we talked about cynicism, and there were 7 challenges, or yeah, 7 challenges that come up against Christians in our walk, in our that affect how we engage with the world. And the next one that we're going to cover tonight is compromise. And it really struck me when I was reading the title to this section of the book, and it's Carey Nieuwhof's book called Didn't See That Coming. And because in my mind, compromise is about meeting in the middle someone or somewhere so that you can maintain peace. And I didn't necessarily see it as a bad thing. And so I decided to look it up. And there's, of course, the definition of compromise that I just gave you. But there's also the definition that says, accept standards that are below or lower than is desirable. Bring into danger by indiscreet, foolish, or reckless behavior. And those are the things that affect our lives as Christians and how we interact with the world. And so for me, when I first joined the church, I really did a fast scale in learning, and I did a lot of reading, but I'll never forget, I read the Sermon on the Mount, and then I also read Romans, and there's 2 sections of each of those that I'm going to read for you tonight that really affected how I interacted and navigated the world. So the first one is Matthew 7:13-14. It's, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destructions, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only few find it. And then in Paul wrote in Romans 7:15, we know that the law is spiritual, but I am unspiritual. Sold as a slave to sin, I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. And if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good. As it is no longer I myself who do it, but it is the sin living inside of me. For I know that good itself does not dwell in me, that is, in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good. I cannot carry it out. For I do not do good I want to do, but I do the evil I do not want to do. This I keep doing. Now, if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but the sin living inside me does it. Those 2 verses really just changed my worldview and how I perceived my actions and my thoughts. In Matthew 7:15, it illustrates how critical character development is and how rare it is. And in the verses from Romans, it illustrates how easily we can fracture our character, intentionally or not. And they are constant, these 2 verses, or these 2 sections of verses, are reminders to me that being a Christian is more about God being good to us or to me than being good. And I need to trust in Christ and in everything, because if I'm left to my own devices, I will choose the wide path and do what I do not want to do. So compromise starts small and subtly, but eventually it will fracture our souls. It is the little white lies that make us look slightly better than the rest. It's the projection of a version of yourself to the world that is not entirely true. It's the gap between what we are and what we wish or believe others wish we would be. So to reduce compromise of our character, we need to look at the gaps in our lives. And gaps can happen in all parts of our lives and can often be identified between the words we use and the actions we take. So let's say, for example, I talked about grace all day, yet when I got home, I just snapped at my kids instantly. Or if I talked about financial responsibility, but really my finances were a mess. I could say people matter to me, but I'm not spending any time with anyone. I'm spending time alone and avoiding people. In these instances, do my words and actions matter? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And we have to kind of, when we're diving into the gaps in our lives, we also have to watch out for the traps, because the gaps are easy to identify in other people. We often call those people that we see those gaps hypocrites. But when it's us, it's hard to see and identify. I think the reason is that for other people, we judge their actions, yet for ourselves, we judge our intent. And we are more tolerant to ourselves. And let's face it, when we tell the story, we shine it up a bit and make it more presentable because it sells the intent. We sell the intent and not the action. So we really have to kind of look at those parts of ourselves and what we're doing and how we're telling the stories of who we are. And it's exactly this type of face saving, I call it face saving, that widens the gap, because it makes it a small compromise, like a white lie, into a much larger compromise that requires cover up. And the cover up is a direct result of the realization that we are not who we should be, and we're ashamed to admit it, and we're ashamed to admit what we're doing. And once this begins to happen, it begins to show in our follow-up and our commitment to the things that we never end up doing. Sure, a lot of us are overcommitted and we bail out on invites, but once you begin to fracture your soul, and you compromise your integrity, it intensifies, and your compromises and lack of showing is more and more evident. Let's just say you're always saying you want to spend more time with your kids, but your priorities have shifted. And so you promise to meet up with them, but because you promise to meet up with them because really internally, you know, it's the decent thing to say, but you never deliver. The same thing can happen at work. You promised your boss that you'd be done on this day, but you never meet that day. Or you promise your wife a date night and it never happens. And all these things seem really little, like they're not a big deal, but in the end, if it starts happening over and over and over, it becomes a big deal, doesn't it? So, but eventually your lack of follow through will turn into acts of justification. And then you stop apologizing for not showing up. You don't take any action to stop it. You just start making excuses for who you are or what is happening. Like nobody has that kind of extra time. It happens to all couples that they fall out of love. I'm irritated because I'm overwhelmed and the pressures are making me crazy. So I'm allowed to have this freak out. I deserve something good. I've worked so hard. No one can fault me for that. Well, eventually the compromises will lead you down the path that life is all about you, and you become detrimentally self-centered. Compromising ourselves is a staple of human condition. It's a natural inclination. Paul said it himself in Romans, but that's no reason to give in. And there are things you can do. but you have to want to do them for yourself. Most people do not go around encouraging you to develop good character. So that brings up a good question in my mind is, who in your life is pushing you to be a better person? Who is speaking to you and who is pointing out those deep-seated character issues that you need to work on? Often there are only a few people in your life, and maybe even worse, nobody. And so that to me is something that we as the church really need to work on, because we are called to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and we are called to encourage people to do just that, to be better. Paul talks about this in his writings in Titus 1:10 through 16. He says, "For there are many rebellious people, full of meaningless talk and deception, especially those from the circumcision party. They must be silenced because they are disrupting whole households by teaching things they ought not teach. And that for the sake of dishonest gain. One Crete prophet has said, Cretans are always liars, evil brutes, and lazy gluttons." These sayings are true. Therefore, rebuke them sharply, so that they may be sound in their faith and will pay no attention to the Jewish myths or to merely human commands of those who reject the truth. To the pure, all things are pure, but those who are corrupt and do not believe, nothing is pure. In fact, both their minds and consciences are corrupt. They claim to know God, but their actions, they deny him. They are detestable, disobedient, unfit for doing anything good. What Paul is saying here in these verses is he's describing how to act in love towards people. He's describing in this passage that love protects, love restores, and love is the right perspective. And within that context, in our relationships, we should be more honest with those that we love about the patterns of behaviors in their lives that are not desirable. And we should be accountable to ourselves to build our character. But if we're truly honest with ourselves, character development is difficult. I don't enjoy it. It's really hard to take a look at yourself, the cracks and crevices in your heart, and it encourages you to look at your past and to forge a better future. It makes you look in the mirror. And that's a hard thing for people to do. But that is one of the reasons why, as is church, is my faith family, we work at being honest about ourselves and about the things that plague us. We do what Paul suggests. We protect each other from the hurts that might creep up in others by gently encouraging those we love that there is another way. We work together to restore relationships because we know that hurt people and forgive quickly and easily those in our circle that have hurt us. And we lead with love because it covers a multitude of sins. But if we're willing to tackle character, right? And as is church, we tackle character all the time and things get uncomfortable. But what happens after we do that is people stop blaming and they stop putting excuses out there, and we start getting honest with each other. And the dynamics of the groups and the congregation change. Compromise may be in our nature, but God created us with a desire to belong and an innate sense that something is missing inside of us if we do not pursue a relationship with him. With him, we can develop our character even if we destroyed it. It is never too late to practice character. And to rebuild character, it takes practice. For me, when I first came into church, and even a little bit before, lying was a big thing for me. I literally lied about everything. And sometimes still to this day, lies come out of my mouth before I can even get them back in. And I have to apologize and admit, lying is so ingrained in me that it often happens before I can stop. When people ask me the simplest questions that really don't even matter, is that a new dress? I'll say no, like so quickly. When I know I just bought it, or did you take my lighter or pen? And I'll be like, no, when I know it's in my purse. Did you walk the dog? No, even though the dog's eyeballs are floating out of its head. Did you pay the bills? Yes, even though I know I just got the shut off notice. And I would fabricate stories about myself to make myself feel better and look better in the eyes of other people. My character was so compromised, and I was trying to promote something that was not me at all cost. All questions made me defensive. All questions made me feel judged. All questions made me feel like an idiot. All questions made me doubt myself. All questions made me self-conscious because I was compromised and because I was so self-involved that I wanted to preserve what dignity I had. But the truth was that I had no dignity. My character was in the toilet and my integrity was nowhere to be found. And all I could do was blame other people, not the person in the mirror. I wanted to be alone because that's what I thought I needed. That's where my lies worked, because in my alone, my lies reign, right? Those are true. I can make them true when I'm alone. But in reality, you can't grow your character in isolation. It has to be challenged. You grow your character through making choices not to reject what you believe to make someone else happy. You grow your character by being honest about who you are. No, I didn't pay the light bill, and now they're going to shut off my electricity. I mean, you have to kind of be that brutally honest. You grow in character by admitting your priorities don't line up with someone else's. Like, it's okay to be like, no, I don't have time to meet with you, or I don't want to invest time in this relationship because I feel it's unhealthy for me. These are all things that grow our character. And if we compromise our character, what happens is the people remember that, and they will eventually lose trust in us. And if we compromise our character, we will eventually be penalized for it. And I don't know how that looks for you. I know how it looked for me. It was, I got fired, I got divorced, I got unfriended, and I got evicted. And I lost my kids. That's how losing my character affected me. But with God on my side, I had a new chance of life, right? I began to see the world in a different way. I was renewed and regenerated, and my heart softened. And I began to love not just my kids, like people. And I began to value who they were, and not what they had to give me, but who they were in life and how they, I just lost my train of thought, so I'm just going to go on. So for me, it started small. Like if I think about how I started to change, for me, it started small. To change myself from the self-centered to God-centered, I returned the cart at the supermarket. I returned it to where it belonged. I didn't leave it in front of my car. That was something that was super important to me. And when I first started doing it, I really hated every time of it when it was raining in Oregon and I had to push the cart 300 feet getting sopping wet. But I did it because somehow that made me gain a little bit of confidence. If I dropped something on the ground, I wouldn't just leave it there and litter. I would pick it up and put it in my pocket. And even sometimes I would pick up other people's stuff. And I told the truth about what I was doing. And most importantly, I started taking deep breaths before I answered questions, so I can filter out the reactionary lies that came out of my mouth. And I admitted my shortcomings. I admitted when people hurt me instead of lashing out. And I remember that God is with me and he loves me. And I stopped trying to be better than everyone else. And I started being real about who I was and the things that I needed to work on. To grow your character and to reduce compromise in your life, you need to do three things. Three. Take responsibility, make your walk and your talk match, And that's really hard. It's really hard to make your walk and your talk match. But with practice and intentionality, you can do it. And you need to take time out to develop your character. This has to be intentional. It is not a byproduct of gaining more understanding about the Bible. It's not a byproduct of learning more skills. It is intentionality. What is your character? And so with that said, I do have an assignment for you because I love assignments. I hope, how many people actually did the assignment last week? Did anybody? Well, you could push the like button. I'll know you did it. And if you didn't, you could push the like button, because at the end of the day, it's really all about you and what you want to invest. So you don't have to do these assignments. You can just think about them, or you can do them. But the assignment for this week is determine if your walk and your talk match, and make a list of the gaps and make time to work on them. So, and to continue the curiosity assignment from last week. And I think what might be cool is if you combine the two, right? If you become curious about why you do the things you do. Is it trauma? Are you holding on to an unbelief or a resentment that is creating compromise in your life? Maybe that's something you want to look at. Maybe you want to look at how the Bible handles these character defects that you've unearthed through this exercise. My lying, it turns out, stemmed from a lifetime of not being enough and a non-existent self-worth and self-confidence. I had this internal notion that to be successful, I had to be the best, but I was the best at nothing. And so I would always be a failure. Where do your compromises come from? What are you selling your soul for? So that's my talk for tonight. I know I went a bit long, which is kind of crazy for me, because usually I'm straight to the point and I don't talk more than my allotted time. So I apologize to everyone for going long. I'm going to close this in a quick prayer. I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight. And I hope that you'll take some of the things, or maybe the lesson talked to you, and you have some questions about it and you want to talk about it more. You can always email me. You can email me at tara@asischurch.com. Or you can email one of the other pastors if you feel more comfortable. And usually it's their first name at asischurch.com, and you can get a hold of them. So I'm going to close this up in prayer. And I love you all, and I hope to see you guys soon. Heavenly Father, you know us better than we know ourselves. You see our compromises we make, and you know the weakness in our hearts. But time after time, you wipe the slate clean and you accept us back with open arms. This week, as we grow in curiosity about the love you have for us and the wounds that bind us, reveal to us the sins that need to be addressed. I know your love and mercy are abundant, and I thank you for your grace. My heart grows closer to you daily, and joy increases. You have changed me, you have loved me, and you continue to do so when I stumble. I am grateful. You rescued me and my soul from destruction. This week, I ask that you be with those that are struggling, that you shine bright in their hearts and comfort them in their time of need. Restore us, mind and body, that we may serve you for the rest of our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. Good night, everybody.